I just realized something when it comes to ICP, and what is that? Even though nothing I say is financial advice, not too long ago I saw this chart by ChainSpect, and it was showcasing the quickest chains in Web3 by average block time over the last 30 days. Now, if we take a look at this right here, we'll see that when it comes to ICP, it's top 10 in that chart, right? It actually beats out something like Say, something like Near, which is very popular. We also take a look at the BNB chain, which is even more popular than that. But also on top of that, we take a look at even Avalanche, a very popular as well layer 1 blockchain. We also take a look at Base, Coinbase is layer 2. We take a look at even Optimism, which is another layer 2. And then even something like Hedera, which I find pretty interesting because if we consider how Hedera Hashgraph doesn't utilize traditional blockchain technology, it instead uses something called a directed acyclic graph. This, I think, is pretty cool as well. However, even besides that point, we also take a look at even, according to this chart, ICP beats out something like Polygon. That's pretty impressive. Now, ICP is not number one, right? I mean, of course, it lost to something like Solana, something like Arbitrum, something like Sui, something like Aptos. So it's not number one in this chart, at least in the last 30 days. But I find that pretty interesting because if we take a look at the block time, or should I say the average block time, when it comes to ICP in that specific timeline I mentioned before, it was around 0.48 seconds. So we're talking about less than half a second right there, slightly. So when I take a look at something like ICP, I am still kind of, I would say, pretty mesmerized by seeing something like this, right? Because sometimes people like to tell me, oh, you're on a computer, no one really cares about it and all this type of stuff. Well, it's not the most popular project out there, but in terms of the statistics, I find it pretty interesting, at least in my perspective. Now, when it comes to ICP, I feel like kind of the narrative of Caffeine AI kind of isn't really talked about as much as it was before. And I think I kind of get it, right? I mean, ICP is still below $5. Nothing really interesting is happening to ICP in the grand scheme of things as of right now in terms of the price. It's more so just kind of what's going on fundamentally. And sometimes just talking about it fundamentally seems a little bit boring. But actually, as of right now, even though I get it, $100 is still around 24 times more than what it is as of right now. But still, I am excited because of the fundamentals and as well as what they're trying to do with Caffeine AI, even though it's not really talked about that much nowadays when compared to, like, let's say just a month ago. However, even besides that point, when I take a look at what Definity is doing, what I find pretty interesting is that Dominic, right, the founder of Definity, he seems to be really caring about the project, which can't be said with a bunch of other projects out there, which feels like kind of they gave up. But then Dominic doesn't give me that vibe when it comes to how he's treating Definity and as well as the internet computer. Now the thing is, if I take a look at maybe the hypothetical idea of $100, which is, again, we're still around 24 times lower than that, the market cap at that point, considering current circulating supply, would be around 54 billion. Which actually, if I take a look at that right there, it doesn't seem like such a maybe outlandish thing, in my perspective, if there was even, let's say, an altcoin season, because if I see something like BNB, which in my perspective, right, I just don't think as like, the BNB chain being a lot more dynamic than their internet computer. Maybe it has more fans, maybe it has better adoption, but in terms of the dynamicness, I would say, if that's even how I would say it, it just kind of feels like the internet computer it's something I would rather prefer. That's my perspective. Now, BNB, even back in 2021, we saw the market cap exceed over 100 billion at one point. And again, that was years ago. Granted, BNB reached a new all-time high during this cycle, which ICP, even during this cycle, it hasn't even been able to surpass $20, right? But I'm just saying, even despite that, if there was an altcoin season, hypothetically, things could maybe be different, which is why I am still staying patient. Now, I can't know exactly what's going to happen to ICP because I cannot tell the future, but at the same time, I just don't view that market cap as something maybe too ridiculous, but again, that's just my perspective. Now, some people out there, they like to tell me, oh, why is it that every time you talk about a project, this happens or whatever happens? Well, here's the thing. Some people out there like to say, oh, why did ICP dip after I talked about it? Well, I have no control over ICP. You know what I mean? And the thing is, actually, when I was talking about ICP just not that long ago, it was actually slightly below $3. So yeah, sure, it's below $5 as of right now, but it's still like better than before at least. Granted, it was like around $9 not too long ago before kind of the pullback, but I'm just saying, Like, I can't control this. You know what I mean? I cannot have any control over what's going to happen or anything like that. So when people like to tell me, oh, why is it, every time I talk about it and all this happens or what happens, like, I don't know. I can't control that, right? It's just sometimes a little bit coincidental. In some cases, I see some of my friends out there, they kind of associate like trivial things to like actually how their day is going to happen. And this kind of harps back to what I mentioned before. So then it just gives that vibe. Like, for instance, I have a friend out there who, like, if let's say he buys like shirts or like pants or anything like that, he'll never buy like 3 pairs. Like, for whatever reason, he thinks that if he has 3 pairs, one is going to get lost or something like that. It's not, I think, even like anything relevant, right? Like, how does that even make sense? But then he just kind of has that vibe. He told me that every single time he bought like 3 pairs of shirts or like 3 pairs of pants, always one would get like something happen to it, like he'd lose it or something like that. But then he told me that if he only buys like 2 or like 4, like, even numbers, he would not have anything like that happen. Now, again, personally, I don't have those type of like mindsets, right? Like, I don't think, oh, if it's like 3, then it's going to happen this or that. No, I don't think that way. But then my friend thinks that way, right? And a lot of my friends out there, they have a certain thing that they think about, like certain aspects like that. So then, yeah, I just kind of want to talk about that because some people out there like to say, oh, why is it, if I talk about it, this happens to ICP? Well, again, I can't control it. You know what I mean? ICP has a bunch of holders. Like, I'm just one out of however many. You know what I mean? Like, I can't do anything about it, or let alone this whole market. But yeah, even besides that point, when it comes to the internet computer as well, what I'm looking forward to is maybe what Dfinity 2.0 could really be, especially in the long term. Because when it comes to the talks about Internet Computer 2.0, a lot of people don't really care about it. But then sometimes people are like, no one's really going to care about Dfinity 2.0. But in my perspective, a 2.0 sometimes, it may not really mean that much in the grand scheme of things, but it at least kind of showcases that the project is trying to evolve, right? So in a sense, if a project is trying to evolve, trying to kind of have this renewal in terms of maybe the vibe, the energy or something like that, it is something I'm still looking forward to, I think, in terms of just the vibe overall. Because sometimes people like to say, oh, no one really cares about 2.0s anymore. Take a look at Silica 2.0. Take a look at Polkadot 2.0. What did that really do? Well, again, a lot of these projects out there, right? I'm not just specifically talking about Silica or Polkadot. A lot of them kind of have these 2.0s, but then it's not during a time when the market is doing the best, because there has never been, I think, hypothetically, an altcoin season during this cycle. Now, will we see one? I can't control that, but it wouldn't necessarily surprise me considering how there's over 600 million owners within this space as of right now. But I'm just saying, when it comes to a lot of these 2.0 launches, when it comes to these projects, a lot of them don't have necessarily the best timing because of the price, but things could hypothetically be different if, let's say, there was an altcoin season. Now, when it comes to the internet computer, I mean, it hasn't really done like anything that exciting as of late other than Caffeine AI in my perspective, which is a self-writing apps platform. However, at least Dfinity did something, right? I mean, other projects out there that can't really be said because a lot of them just don't really do anything actually when the project isn't doing the best in terms of price. But then when there's the price, they say, oh, we're going to try to launch this. We're going to try to do this. But what are they really doing? Like, launching what? And then they never do it. And then they wait until there's a pullback or something like that. Then they say, oh, okay, we're going to be focusing on different things. It's like, what? So they were just announcing random things when the price was doing good. And then when it wasn't, they don't really care. But then this type of project just gives me more of a long-term vibe. That's the way to take a look at it. Some other projects out there, I feel like it's not really being taken seriously, but I kind of feel like Dfinity is taking the internet computer seriously. Now, if they're already able to do like Caffeine AI as of right now, imagine what they could maybe do moving forward. Maybe they might not do anything anymore, who knows? But it wouldn't surprise me if they continue to innovate more because, a lot of this stuff that they're doing, no one really asked for, in my perspective. Like, I didn't hear a lot of people saying, we need a self-writing apps platform and all this. I didn't hear a lot of that, if any, actually. But then Dfinity, we take a look at, Caffeine AI. I mean, I didn't even ask for that, So then what could it do moving forward? I mean, only time will tell, but if it's already doing this as of right now, I am still staying patient, I'm still holding, and I'm just going to wait. That's it, because I don't think I've seen an altcoin season during the cycle. We're seeing some altcoins as of right now have a pretty okay recovery, but only time will tell. I'm still staying patient. I'm holding and I'm waiting. And that's pretty much about it, even though I'm not telling anyone to do anything, and even though nothing I say is financial advice. However, I want to say thank you for watching. I hope y'all have a nice day. It's Willie the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one.